value section of our Lean Basics series. Now, I travel around a lot, so to introduce value, I'll let you follow along on one of my trips. This is generally how my week starts. It's Sunday afternoon and I'm driving to the airport. This week I'm going to Dayton, Ohio. It's about a 10-minute drive to the airport from my house. When I get to the airport, there's usually a line for long-term parking. Today I'm lucky and it only takes about 3 minutes to get a ticket. No line outside generally means there's plenty of parking inside. I find a spot in no time, just under 3 minutes. I unload my luggage and enter the airport, take an elevator to the ticketing area. There I stand in line. It takes about 15 minutes. I use the kiosk, get my tickets printed out, wait for the ticket agent to verify my ID, and print my luggage tag. This takes about 5 minutes. I then lug my computer bag for a 6-minute walk to the other side of the airport to the security checkpoint. The line is pretty short today and I make it to the front in a little over 7 minutes. I wait to pass through the metal detector and 10 minutes later I'm through. From there it's a quick 5-minute walk to my gate. Now, I always try to arrive 30 minutes prior to boarding as recommended by the airlines. This day, I wait 37 minutes for them to open the gate for boarding. When my zone is called, I get in line and it takes about 10 minutes to get to my seat. When I get there, there's a rather large, intimidating man sitting in my seat. After exchanging a few words, I decide that his middle row seat in the back near the lavatory is just as good as my aisle seat near the front. It takes about 2 minutes for me to walk to the back of the plane. We taxi to the runway and wait in line to take off. On this day, some weather in North Carolina causes us to sit and wait on the runway for 35 minutes. The flight to Charlotte Airport takes about an hour and 15 minutes. During the flight, I see the big guy come by to use the lavatory. I give him a dirty look when he's not looking. Because I'm trapped in the back of the plane, it takes me about 15 minutes to exit. I walk briskly to my gate and I make it there in about 7 minutes. Let me assure you that I'm not making this up. On this particular day, the waste gods are shining upon me. My flight is canceled and I'm forced to catch the next flight to Dayton out of Charlotte. I wait for 2.5 hours at the gate, or about 150 minutes. Because of some logjam when we finally get to board, we have to wait in line for almost a half an hour. This is a smaller commuter plane that I'm riding, so it takes me less than a minute to find my seat. We taxi to the runway and again, we wait in line to take off. There are only 2 planes in front of us, so it takes just about 9 minutes before we take off. It's a quick 90-minute flight from Charlotte to Dayton. Again, this is a small commuter plane, so it only takes about 11 minutes for me to exit. Now, Dayton Airport is actually laid out pretty well, so it only takes about 6 minutes for me to walk to baggage claim. It's after midnight when we arrive, so the airport is working with a limited staff. It takes 15 minutes for them to finally get the luggage carousel going. I pick up my bag in just about a minute, and then I proceed to the ground transportation area that is on the other side of the baggage claim area. This is about 4 minutes away. Because my bag was among the last few to come out, the other passengers have beaten me to the rental car desk. I have to wait in line for 15 minutes to get a car. I finally get a car and drive 25 minutes to the hotel. There's 1 person working the desk and 1 person in line. It only takes about 5 minutes total before I get my key and I'm off to my room. Right now it's after 1 a.m. and the 3-minute walk to my room feels like an eternity. So this entire trip was broken down into 39 distinct steps. Only 2 what I considered to be value-added steps. Those 2 were the flight times. From door to door I had been traveling just under 10 hours. My flight time made up only about 2 hours, or 128 minutes of the entire 10 hours. I was either walking or waiting in line for 7 hours. Only about 28% of my total travel time was value-added. I spent a ton of wasted time in modes of travel and queue that did not get me any closer to my destination. It makes me shake my head when I hear about airliners investing billions into the latest class of Boeing superjets that are 10% faster. Even if they didn't spend another dime on more modern planes, they could make vast improvements in the value ratio by shortening lead times through reliable flight scheduling or optimizing routes. In my opinion, airliners have lost sight of what customers truly consider valuable: safe, comfortable, short travel times. So to further develop value, we'll go through the definition, the conditions of value, and then we'll compare value versus waste. So here's the definition of value. You're adding value when you change the form, the fit, or the function of your product. So in assembly, when you're actually manipulating the product, assembling, that's when you're adding value. If you're a doctor, when you're actually performing a procedure on a patient, that's when you're adding value. Everything else is waste. So all the prep work that went into prepping the operating room or prepping your manufacturing environment, that's all waste. So there are a couple conditions you need to meet the demands of value. First of all, it has to be customer defined. You can't let your marketing department do it. You can't let your sales force do it. The customer themselves need to call something value add. The second thing is they need to be willing to pay for it. If it's an extra feature that they just don't want, it's not value add. Lastly, it has to be done right the first time. So a bunch of rework, if you have a pile of defects that you brought back into your shop to rework, that's not value add. That second time around, no matter how efficient you are at it, is not value add. So who do I mean by the customer? There's an external customer and there's internal customers. We all generally think about the external customer, who we're servicing as a manufacturing environment or as a healthcare provider, whether that's the customer or a patient. But we have to look at the internal customer too. If you think back to our paper airplane exercise, the first operator and the second operator, that is a customer-supplier relationship. Operator number 2 is the customer of operator number 1. So he needs to make sure that his part is perfect for that next customer to receive. So again, here's a comparison of value versus waste. We have a couple operations and we're going to go through and see if these are value add or non-value add. First we have cutting, setting up the machinery, welding, and then cleaning up. So cutting. Does that change the form, fit, or function of the product? Yes, it does, absolutely. Setting up. Does that change the form, fit, or function of the product itself? Unfortunately, it doesn't. Now, setting up, is that a necessary task? Absolutely. Unless you can get around set up magically, you're going to have to do that. But is it value add? No. Just like the doctor performing a procedure, he's going to have consultation with that patient. That's all part of setup. He can't do it without it, but is it value add? No, it's not. Next is welding. Yes, that's actually value add. You're actually changing the fit of the product. Is cleaning up the weld slag value added? Well, the customer likes it, but are they willing to pay you to clean up? Could you weld clean so you don't have to clean up after yourself? In theory, yes. So cleanup is non-value added. This is one of the first diagrams you see in the Toyota production system written by Taiichi Ohno. It's a simple diagram of order to cash. He says the Toyota production system really breaks down to how well you can compress this line. Now, some companies are excellent at adding value, but they're very poor at collecting cash. So when do you make money as an organization? The answer is when you get paid. There's a misconception that when you're adding value, you're making money. That's not necessarily the case. So when you talk to a welder that's welding 2 pieces of steel together, or a physician that's performing an operation, they may think that they're making money at that moment. But who's to say that they'll ever get paid? That's why Ohno says order to cash is what we're trying to compress. So there's 2 distinct things we're looking at, value add versus when we get paid. So like I said, some companies are excellent at adding value, but they're very poor at collecting cash. They can be very good at adding value and shipping directly to a customer, but then get paid on a 90 or 180-day pay cycle. This is a very poor way to stay in business. So if you look at the entire order to cash cycle, if I'm ordering this triangle, this red here represents all the non-value added tasks, while this green represents the value added tasks. In general, your order to cash cycle is heavily weighted towards non-value added tasks because you add value and then the product sits. So if I were to sum up all the non-value added tasks and all the value added tasks on this order to cash cycle, this is about how it'd be weighted. Now, would it make more sense to attack the value added tasks or the non-value added tasks to compress this line? The answer is obviously attacking the non-value added tasks. Traditionally, manufacturers went after the value added portion. So you had people putting in capital requests for a machine that would cut 0.2 of a second faster. That would compress this line by this much. Imagine how much more opportunity do you have to compress this line by reducing the non-value added tasks. So if you compress this line and removed all the non-value added tasks, only this small portion would remain. Remember the X-plane that I inserted during the simulation? It was used to measure how long it would take a plane to make it through from start to finish once a system was fully loaded. Now imagine that X-plane as a leaf you drop into a meandering stream. If I drop in a leaf and time how long it takes for it to travel all the way downstream, it's going to take a while. In some areas, the leaf gets trapped in pools and circles like our X-plane did when it was caught in a log jam. At other times, the leaf travels quickly when it reaches a narrow point in the stream. This is how we treat our customers today. Their orders get lost in long, winding, meandering streams. They idle in some places and then they're processed quickly in others just to idle again later downstream. In extreme cases, orders get lost and never make it out of the stream. Notice that if you conduct an experiment and time the same leaf numerous times going down the stream, the chances of getting the same time each run of your experiment is next to none. This is because all the different scenarios the leaf or the order could take. Will your leaf wind once around this pool? Will your order get pushed to the front by a strong current in the form of an upset regional sales manager? The possibilities are endless, leading to a very undisciplined and unpredictable system. Now imagine if value flowed through your organization like water flows through this narrow pipe. There are no side pools or unnecessary loops like those found in the meandering pond. Orders flow in one end and are released out of the other end in the form of finished product quickly and predictably. Now, imagine putting a leaf into one end and timing it coming out of the other end of the pipe. It would take far less time than it would have in the stream, and perhaps more importantly, it would exit the system predictably around the same time every single time. This is how you need to think about value and how it needs to flow through your organization. So take a look at the top diagram labeled original. That's the ratio of the flight time to wait time I had during my trip to Dayton. Notice there are two ways to reduce lead time and the order to cash cycle on this diagram. The first approach is to reduce the value added portion of the trip by asking the pilot to fly a little faster or by purchasing a new faster plane, but the gains are pretty limited. Now look at the bottom diagram and notice how much we can improve my trip by attacking the non-value added portion. If we didn't have to wait on the runway so long, or wait in line to board, we could easily shave off more time than if we spent a ton of capital on new equipment. Think of the impact you could have on your financial statement if your order to cash cycle was cut in half by eliminating non-value added tasks. If an airliner decided to attack the value added portion of my trip by purchasing a new faster plane, what would be the point? I'd just have to sit and wait longer at the next airport for my next flight. All of this should make a strong case for you not to invest in fancy new value-added equipment, but instead focus on reducing non-value-added tasks. For example, could you bypass a warehouse and deliver directly to a customer? Could you make paperwork flow better in your invoicing or order entry department? Could you as a physician work closer in a network of specialists so patients don't have to wait weeks to see another doctor? So to close this section, we need to learn to attack non-value-added activities. We need to learn to get paid faster and to closely examine what we see as value in our organization today.